Joel Klatt will be calling Ohio State and Michigan Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox. So last year, even though I really admire Ryan Day and like him a lot, I think he's a great football coach. I did think he outthought the room. I think he'd been pushed around by Michigan, and in the Midwest, there's a different kind of stylistic approach, and he's like, we're going to punch Michigan in the mouth. And it's like, just throw the ball. you got great players. Just play your game. And I think he played Michigan's game, fooled around, played with his food a little bit, and it caught him. They got a little tight late. I think if at least Carnell Tate can play, I think Ohio State is the significantly better team here. Do you believe that?
Well, I mean, yes, they're the better team, and that's why the spread is where it was. But they were, I would think, better by a wider margin a year ago. I mean, they were 20-point favorites a year ago. So to your point, they got sucked into a game that was Michigan's game. I firmly believe, I think Will Howard got banged up early in that game last year.
Yeah,
I firmly believe that Ryan and his coaching staff felt like a field goal would win the game because they didn't feel like Michigan with their quarterback play was going to be able to score on their defense. And so here's Ohio State. They get into the red zone 5 times last year and come away with 10 total points. That was the game. 2 missed field goals, interception in the red zone. So those mistakes are what ultimately cost them the game. And they could have played the exact same style. Now, I think what they learned from that was what they then put into action for the playoff. And Colin, you and I both know that Buckeye team in the playoff was a different team, and they were aggressive down the field. You look at what they did early in that game against Tennessee at home in the first round. They took shots to Jeremiah Smith. They used Smith early and often against Oregon where they were routing them in the first half of that Rose Bowl. And those are the lessons that I think need to come into play this week for Ohio State. Be themselves. Attack down the field. And obviously the health of those wide receivers is a bit in question. I remain optimistic that they'll both be on the field. I think their effectiveness is more the question than their availability. I think Smith will be on the field. I think Tate will be on the field. But are they 100%? Can they attack those safeties of Michigan down the field and cause them some level of threat? I think that's really where the game is won and lost for Ohio State.
So, listen, I think Notre Dame is better than Miami now, and I think college football is about 30 to 35% NFL now. September just doesn't matter like it used to. I said this before the Ohio State-Texas game. If it's close, I don't care who wins. I said it about Oregon-Ohio State the year before. If it's close, it doesn't matter. They scheduled it. I'm proud of both schools for scheduling it. You step up to the table. I love that. My biggest knock on college football has always been a lack of people willing to play, go to Columbus out of conference or go to Norman, Oklahoma. So, my feeling is Notre Dame is better than Miami today, and ugly losses are really – that's one thing that usually the people on these tables and these boards get right. You can't lose to unranked teams if you're a top 5-10 team. So I'm okay with – a much improved team by an inch better than Miami. Miami still has to beat Pitt. But I know you are probably bothered deeply about the current rankings that has Notre Dame over them.
I'm not bothered. I think that 2 things can be true at once. If the committee's objective is just to give us the best teams and they ask themselves in the room, who wins on a neutral site this week?
Yeah.
I'd pick Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So in that respect, do I disagree with the ranking? No. But the committee is setting themselves up for a bit of a trap. And that trap is the head-to-head matchup against Miami. Because if we're not honoring games on the field, then what are we doing? Then why are we playing them? Then let's just sit there and have a beauty pageant and look at the recruiting rankings and look at the rosters and the way that they're constructed and how many stars each, so I don't want to get into a beauty pageant either. There's also another trap that this committee is falling into, and it's not honoring those non-conference games that you just talked about. Now, I do want to clarify just something really quickly because the Miami-Notre Dame game is part of the ACC scheduling agreement that Notre Dame has. So that's a little bit out of their control. What I would say is more impressive is that they also scheduled Texas A&M.
Yes.
Well, you've got this team in Michigan that's sitting there at 15, and they're in the bottom of the 2 lost teams. And yet, one of their losses is at Oklahoma. They scheduled that game, did not buy out of that game, and played it.
Yep.
And the committee is not honoring that right now. I think that they should view Michigan's resume more favorably because of that non-conference matchup against Oklahoma. So the trap that the committee is setting themselves right now is if they're just going to go by eye test and say, well, who wins on a neutral site, this weekend, then they're not going to honor head-to-head, and they're also going to devalue non-conference blue blood opponents, which is bad for the sport moving forward.
Totally agree.
It's a tough position because, again, I don't disagree with the ranking, but it also speaks to kind of the brokenness of the nature of this thing. I don't think that we should have a selection-based playoff. I think we should have an access-based playoff so we can remove some of this ambiguity and the problems that exist in trying to place and rank teams in this fashion.
So I try not to be a hypocrite, and in my career as America's honesty broker, I have bounced around the country for better jobs. Okay, so so I'm not going to be a hypocrite when somebody is highly mobile in their career. So everybody's like, hey, Lane Kiffin is going to tarnish his reputation. His reputation has always been, you have a job, I'll travel. You can fire me in a tarmac. I'll leave you on one.
I mean, he was fired on a tarmac.
Right.
Yes.
So my take is Brian Kelly never went to charm school. LSU's like, he's available. Let's go get him. College football has become more NFL. It's cutthroat. LSU's like, what do we care about Ole Miss? He's the best coach in the country. I don't think it hurts Lane Kiffin. I feel bad for Ole Miss because I really do think, I don't think they're as good as Ohio State. I think they could beat Oregon. I think they could beat Georgia. I think they could beat Indiana, maybe. So I'm more bothered that selfishly, I want to see Ole Miss in the playoff with Kiffin because I think they can beat everybody except Ohio State. That's my problem, not somebody wants me, I'm going to go.
Okay, so there's I think 8 things that you just said that I disagree with. I'm trying to remember all of them. Let me try my best. First of all, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
In all of your movement, and you've moved around, you've worked at multiple networks and done different things, and more power to you. That agency is great for you and your family, and I don't begrudge that.
Yeah.
At any point did you leave in the middle of a contract?
I left early, and I left 6 months early. I also started negotiating with another company, 2 companies, 9 months before I was allowed to.
Okay, so you're just revealing your character to all of America here.
Yeah.
I would say this about Lane. Lane has been given a lot of cover, and I like Lane, and he's very good for college football. He's great for college football.
Yes.
And Colin, he is a very good coach. He's not one of the best coaches in America, though. He has not been to a playoff. He happens to be a big fish right now in a small pond, and it's advantageous for him because of that. There's big jobs open and a really weak class of coaches or pool of coaches that are candidates. Part of the reason why there is a weak pool of candidates is because there are other coaches that are unwilling to do what Lane is doing, which is leave a team in the middle of a playoff run. Yeah. That cannot be overstated. Yeah. You see, he's wanting to lament, and those that run cover for him, want to lament the calendar. And while they are correct, the calendar is clearly broken in college football. We can do 30 minutes on the calendar right here. I agree with that take. The problem is that it's the same calendar for Dan Lanning at Oregon, and it's the same calendar for Curt Cignetti at Indiana, and Mike Elko at Texas A&M, and Rhett Lashley at SMU. And yet they, with their agency, chose to stay where they're at, okay, and stay within their playoff run. And you could make a strong argument that Rhett Lashley and Curt Cignetti could be looking at their spots, Indiana and SMU, and think to themselves, I tell you what, grass is probably greener at Florida or LSU. Meanwhile, Lane has turned Ole Miss into a premier program in the SEC. I would make the argument he doesn't have to leave. This is not college football of 10 years ago where you have to be at one of 3 or 4 places in order to compete for and win a national championship.
That's fair.
He doesn't have to leave. And my last point would just be, as a coach, when you stand in front of your players, your currency is your credibility. And your credibility with those players is tied directly to your character. The only thing they care about is how much you care about them. And if he does this and he leaves, which it looks like he's going to, it looks like he's going to LSU, he will destroy his credibility. In front of what team that he stands in front of, can he say like, hey, commit to me and choose, lay down yourself and let's commit to something bigger than ourselves and let's go achieve something great. In the back of their minds, they're going to be like, well, what if something better pops up for you, Lane? What if the Dallas Cowboys call? Are you going to leave us in the middle of a playoff run? Because he's the play caller at Ole Miss. He decimates that program and that offense and their opportunity to win at the top level if he leaves. So that's all I would say is, listen, I like Lane. I think he's great for this sport. But this excuse that the calendar is forcing him into this decision is wrong. The calendar is the same for all the other coaches in the country, which have said that they will stay and committed to the places that they've been in. He's doing a disservice to the players he's coaching now, currently, and I feel bad for him.
My only disagreement there is you say coaches stand in front of players and ask for commitment. No, in 2025, coaches stand in front of players with envelopes full of cash and hand it to them because that's what the sport is.
It has become more transactional. I will give you that.
That's what it is.
And this is not an easy scenario. I will give you that. But at the end of the day, he's the one that has to stand and look in front of the mirror. And if he does this, by the way, he will be authoring one of what was now the 5 messiest exits in football coaching history. Al Davis with the overhead projector. Tennessee leaves in the middle of the night. They riot. They're burning couches, throwing them outside of the balconies. Tarmac at USC. Remember, Nick Saban didn't want to deal with Lane waffling back and forth about the FAU job, so he said, beat it before the national championship game. Didn't even let him call plays in the national championship game.
Yeah, so I don't like his exits.
This has been a trend for him.
Yeah, no. It's listen. I've said I wouldn't do all this stuff. I even have friends at the old place. I don't like sloppy exits. I don't like it, but I think college football needs to create. I mean, you can't go rob the Chiefs of Andy Reid during the playoffs. College football has needed a czar. That's why UFC.
And that's why I started with that. Like, I agree the calendar is broken. We need to fix that. There's no doubt. I just don't want that to run cover for what I feel like is a poor decision.
Okay, so let me defend Lincoln Riley first. If he beats UCLA and wins a bowl game, they go 11-3, losing 2 of their 3 losses are at Notre Dame and at Oregon. I'm sorry, but that's not a bad season when they return almost all of their top players. I mean, they really have a good recruiting class. Their O-line, their D-line come back. If they beat UCLA, should. And if they win a bowl game over whoever, Utah, something like that. The downside is, I think I can also say this. 4 years in, when they play the best teams, the special teams are often a disaster and the defense is mid, and I'm being kind with mid. What are they? And I just think 4 years in, the offense was clever with Lincoln the first day he was there. That's never changed. But the defense and special teams in big games feels below average. What are they? Is that a fair criticism?
I think it's totally fair. I think that they're better than what they were last year, certainly. They've gone from losing those close games to winning a lot of those close games. But at the top end, they're not competing like you would hope they would compete when they face a team like Notre Dame or Oregon. And I think they would lament not closing out that Illinois game, which they had the lead late in that Illinois game on the road. And they couldn't stop the run in that game. They've got to get better, more physical and more stout in the middle of their defense. The defensive line is young and will be better next year.
Yes.
They are very good, I think, in the coming years on the defensive line. They've got to get better at linebacker and more stout.
Yeah, they're weak, actually.
That is an area of weakness that it has to turn around. Now, with this number 1 recruiting class that they've got, I do still believe that that's an upward trajectory. They couldn't get to 11 wins, I don't believe. They can get to 9 potentially in the regular season. They could go 9-3 and then maybe a 10th win in the bowl game.
Yeah, my bad. I said 11. It's 10. My bad.
But 10 wins, to your point, like that's a huge mark of demarcation in college football that still means something and certainly would mean progress at USC. In particular with the class that they've got coming in next year. So I still believe that they're on an upward trajectory, but there are clear areas where if they don't fix, then this will continue to happen. If they don't fix the interior of their defense, in particular at linebacker, this will continue to happen because those teams that they're playing, the Michigans, the Ohio's, I know they beat Michigan, but Ohio States of the world, the Oregons of the world, those teams are elite and will be elite every single year.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. We just listen. I know you can't make predictions. I think Ohio State 30-13. And I think if as long as one of them can play, one of their great receivers can play, I think this defense, I love Underwood, I love Marsh, and I was a big Harbaugh guy.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, I'm telling you right now, that Julian Sand doesn't make mistakes.
Doesn't.
And that defense is a top 5 college defense. You can go back to Steve Ettman in Washington.
Yep.
Nick Saban had a defense.
In 2011, they were great in 2011.
Yeah. Like
Georgia in 21 was exceptional.
This is an all-time defense.
Yep.
I can't wait. And
I can't wait either. And by the way, it's supposed to be just like prototypical weather. 30 with snow flurries. Let's go.
Hey, by the way, I just want to make it clear. Just because I left the other place early, I've changed. I am now only committed to Fox, iHeart, and Joel Klatt. That was the old me.
No, I disagree. I see you out there. You got other college football guys that you've got on whatever you're doing everywhere else. And I'm like, okay, I feel, I feel a little cheated on, Colin. I'll be honest, but that's all right. That's all right. I know I disagree. I can be disagreeable at times.
It's my favorite part of you, actually.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.